So I think at this point, most people can agree that California can be considered an absolute cesspool at this point. I know people who live in California who tell me it's a literal cesspool and they would leave right away if they could. But unfortunately, for some of them, they're not able to, which I understand. But California is 100% a cesspool, unfortunately. If you are not part of the woke left, you might as well just find a way to kind of escape the state any which way you can, because it's going to be a literal nightmare for you. Now, why am I talking about California? Why am I bringing it up? So apparently there's a new article from Bounding Into Comics, and it says California proposes withholding new tax credits from Hollywood productions unless they set ethnic, racial, and gender diversity goals and to develop a plan to achieve them. So the people who literally tell you that they're the best for the role, right? You hear this all the time. They're the best for the role. When you see race swapping happen all the time, they're the best for the role. We promise. We're not doing check boxes. We don't have diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. These same people that tell you this, that obviously we know they're checking boxes, now they're trying to make it a literal law or a literal thing where they're gonna withhold money from these production studios unless they do something like this over and over and over again and explain how they're gonna achieve those goals. It is absolutely insane. You no longer are hired based on the merit of which you are able to perform the job. You're no longer hired on how good you can perform the job or based on your merit. No, you're hired on the literal, easiest thing about a person. You are hired on something that took you no skill to have, took you no skill to develop. You are hired simply based now on your skin color and what you can provide for a company that is looking to check off boxes. Now it is official. You can't hide it anymore. If you have California trying to come up with proposal ideas like this, you know this shit's already going down, okay? It's going down behind the scenes. They're only going to try to bring it to light now officially, and they're going to try to find a way to make it happen without being accused of being racist towards white people. That's what they're trying to do. So let's talk a little bit more about what's going on and see what the Bounding Into Comics has to say. It says, while it may not be illegal yet, California is taking its first steps to punish Hollywood projects that aren't woke enough to meet the ever-moving standards of progressive. In 2022, California voted to pass SB 485, which revised the state's film tax credits legislation to introduce a new credit which could only be received if a given project provided a diversity work plan that includes goals that are broadly reflective of California's population. According to the 2020 census, California's racial demographics are 41% white alone, 6% black alone, 40% Hispanic, 15% Asian alone, 1.6% American Indian and Alaska Native alone, 0.4% Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander alone, 21.2% some other race alone, and 10.2% individuals whose ethnicity is composed of two or more races. Under the bill, an appointed commission will be prohibited from certifying the tax credit for an applicant until the commission receives the applicant's final diversity report. Additionally, said commission will be authorized to increase the applicant's credit percentage if the commission determines that the applicant has met or made a good faith effort to meet the diversity goals in its diversity work plan. How fucking insane is that? Isn't that just nuts? That can't just be nuts to me, man. What happened to the days of hire? This is why all the TV shows and movies that suck, they suck for a reason. Because they are so focused on trying to check off boxes that they probably hired someone that's not the best for the role. It's almost guaranteed at this point. We see time and time again how the writing is terrible. And keep in mind, guys, this is not just for the acting itself. This is for everything, right? So everything in Hollywood, writers, film producers, actors, and actresses, this is everything. So it all starts in the writer's booth, right? Writers are terrible lately. They don't know how to write a story for the life of them. And the reason why is because they're just shills. All of them really aren't writers. They really just are trying to get jobs in politics. But unfortunately, they got to get a job in something. So they end up being a writer. That's where they ended up falling into. And what most of these writers do, or what they're taught to do, is just self-insert themselves into whatever story they're trying to write. So the writers are pretty terrible. So what happens when the writers are terrible? Well, the story ends up being terrible. If the story's terrible, then the actors can't even act it because the story is just terrible. They don't know how to actually act into a bad story. It is just impossible. It's a tough thing to do. No matter how good of an actor, if the story is a fail, it's going to fail regardless. And this is the problem that we have in California as a whole, or in Hollywood as a whole. This is the issue we have. And now they're going to make it worse because now they're going to try to make it mandatory. Because even though most of these companies already have their own diversity, equity, and inclusion mandatory kind of rules, we all know most of them just do it to check a box. So that's why we have a joke around a lot of TV shows and movies where you have the token black guy, the token Spanish guy. Every like, there's only one of everything. You know what I'm saying? Because they were trying to meet diversity quotas within the company itself at the bare minimum that they possibly could, and then everything else was free game. But now it looks like California itself is trying to jump in and make it mandatory, and I'm sure their version of mandatory is going to be a hell of a lot worse than whatever these companies were doing on their own. It says while the original bill held no specific penalties for productions that failed to meet these goals, the state's Democratic governor Gavin Newsom is now seeking to provide the state with the tools needed to enforce these new rules. As per the state's 2023 to 2024 film tax credit budget proposal submitted by the governor's office on February 28th, whereas a previous budget packet included a blanket allocation of $150 million in film tax credits for productions that are filmed at new or renovated sound stages, this credit is now being withheld unless the given production is instituting ethnic, racial, and gender diversity goals and to develop a plan to achieve those diversity goals. Productions are eligible to receive an additional 4% tax credit if they meet or make a good faith effort to meet their diversity goals, the governor's office added. It says, should this proposal be adopted, it will remain in effect throughout the rest of the current tax credit's effective lifespan in 2025, though lawmakers are currently working on extending this end date to 2030. I honestly, I read stuff like this and I'm just blown away because I can't believe that we have people that are openly talking about hiring based off skin color, and in the same breath, they're trying to pretend like they're not the racist ones. Isn't that insane to me? It has to be insane to me. Maybe it's just me. I really don't know, because I grew up in a place where you judge someone based off the merit of their character, right? Martin Luther King, we all know that stuff. You judge someone based off the merit of their character and not on their skin color. Now, apparently, these people who are so progressive are going backwards in the sense that, okay, you can only hire people based on their skin color. You have to have a certain amount of skin color in your workforce. Otherwise, you're not allowed to get a tax credit. What? Like, how is that a thing? Like, what are you telling me? Like, I would be so, I mean, I am blown away. I'm just thinking about it right now. If I was in their shoes, I would be so blown away. But the funny thing is, a lot of these companies in California who this rule is going to affect, you think they care? They're already doing this shit anyway. So what do they care? Now they just gotta do it more official. Now they're gonna hire a diversity officer if they don't already have one, who's gonna be in charge of keeping track of all the darkness within the company. It's insane. It says California's new proposal is all but the latest example of the ongoing trend of introducing DEI quotas to entertainment. Last year, British television grant ITV is set aside £80 million, $105 million to promote production companies that promote disability and race-based content. ITV is committed to creating content by, with, and for everyone, connecting and reflecting modern audiences, said ITV Group Diversity Inclusion Director Ad Rawcliffe. We want more people of color and disabled people to be able to tell their stories and get opportunities in senior production roles. In recent years, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, GLAAD, has made it a point to produce an annual Studio Responsibility Index, which grades the top 8 major Hollywood studios based on the quantity, quality, and diversity of the LGBTQ representation in their films. You see what I'm saying? If a production company has to worry about all of these checkboxes, there's an insane amount of checkboxes, right? Think about it. LGBTQ plus is a ton of checkboxes on its own. Now you're gonna put all the races in there too. It's ridiculous. How is any company gonna keep up with all these checkboxes? I don't really see how this is ever gonna be possible. So that's why at this point, if you guys notice, everything is black and everything is gay. That's just what it is. Like, if you're white in a TV show or a movie, chances are you're either gay or you're a villain. Most likely. That's usually how it rolls. It says, I expect every industry executive in this room to join us. GLAAD will give you the playbook, said GLAAD president and CEO Sarah Kate Ellis at last year's GLAAD Media Awards. Sarah Kate Ellis. Let me look her up. So Sarah Kate Ellis, this is the person talking to you about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? This is the person. She's totally not a grifter. Totally not a grifter. Her company is totally not grifting. She's the CEO of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. This white, blonde-haired woman is the CEO of... Come on, bro. Stop this. It's always a white woman who is a liberal. Why? Why is it? They're always the ones that are behind all this fucking nonsense, man. It's insane. How is this woman your poster child for diversity, equity, and inclusion? How? How is that even fucking possible? I can't even, bro. Honestly, man, fuck these people. Like, seriously, they're just terrible. In the organization's 10th annual report, all 7 major film studios failed to receive a passing grade based on the ever evolving standards of LGBTQ representation. Sony Pictures, United Artists Releasing, Universal Pictures, and the Walt Disney Studios all received a grade of insufficient, while Warner Brothers received a grade of poor. Meanwhile, Lionsgate and Paramount Pictures received the organization's worst score, failing due to their films not containing any LGBTQ characters. Ultimately, woke diversity quotas are not going anywhere in Hollywood. So listen, that's the whole point of this story, and it's hilarious to me that woke Disney literally failed on GLAAD. Like Disney of all people failed. If Disney failed on trying to make the LGBTQ people happy and diversity, equity, inclusion people happy, if they failed, nobody's gonna win. Nobody's gonna win. It's just the end. At the end of the day, nobody's gonna win. Disney went woke as hell the last 2 years, and they still failed at the end of the day. So goes to show you how you're never gonna make these people happy ever. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy, and if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.